To the core connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is who we be, and be as an active verb, I guess. And so often we adopt the um, ways of being or our limitations as our identity somehow. And we're going to take a look into that to see how we can become more expressed of our essential selves and our essential being. So before we get started, let's take a moment to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And welcome to River Oaks Airbnb. So good to have you joining us this morning. So we're talking about who we be. And I know that's sort of an awkward turn of phrase, but what brought this to mind for conversation is a conversation that I had in a session yesterday about being the outsider. And I have had so many of these conversations and even recognized some of them in myself about the identities that we take on and then live into, that we embody then in our lives. So we say we are an outsider. That's how we identify ourselves. Well, if that's the case, if I believe I'm an outsider, then the way I show up in the world, the way I'm being in the world is going to be from that context. So from the context of the outsider. And if I am playing that role, and I want to use that language carefully and deliberately, because it's a role that we play, or we have this assortment of roles that we play, but we don't even recognize them as roles. We tend to believe them. We tend to act as if it's who we are in our essence. And so we create this context. We're really into the role. We don't recognize a separation between our essence and the role. And so if we're being an outsider, we're going to respond to the stimulus of our environment from that context of being an outsider. So we might be particularly cautious in the way that we respond. We might feel that we're under threat, or we might feel like we don't have a right to speak up, or we may assert ourselves even more intensely to try and become an insider. But the point is that the activity or the behavior, the whole demeanor is defined by that role that we have assumed as if it's true. And the thing about this is that those roles often we don't even see them, because it's kind of like the water we're swimming in. We don't, like a fish in water doesn't necessarily, we presume a fish in water doesn't recognize the water, because that's their pervasive environment. And so when we have these roles, we don't, they're kind of invisible to us because we're so immersed in them. So if I'm just thinking, we do this with all kinds of identities. We do this with religious identities. We do this with racial identities. We do this with family sorts of identities and historical identities. We do it with our educational or financial background. We take on these roles and positions without even knowing that we've done so. And so these roles and positions are essentially overlays to our essential selves, to our fluid expression of life, essentially, because we're creating these contexts for ourselves. We're creating these boxes to live from and into. So I invite you to look at what are the roles. So maybe if you're maybe in a family, you're the smart one, or you're the slow one, or you're the one who is too intense or too emotional or too much. I've done work with more than one person who had been told growing up that they're too much. And so when you take that on, it's sort of a form of hypnosis, because we don't consciously, deliberately say, okay, give it to me. I'm going to take that on. And I'm going to live into that role. It's kind of like we're under a spell, a spell that was cast before we had the ability to discern. And so taking on that role wasn't particularly a deliberate, awake choice. And because of that, we end up living into it, not knowing that it was a role that was cast upon us, not even questioning it, just sort of living into it. And so we get the opportunity, as we grow up and hopefully get more exposure and start asking questions of ourselves and life, to maybe broaden our awareness to recognize that we've done that we actually have created a container for ourselves that we live in. And we may not have created it, but we've adopted it. At some point, we get to be responsible to make different choices, or to maybe untangle, dissolve those contexts that limit us, to recognize them so that we can at least start moving out of being at the effect of them. And the thing that I've noticed in the core connection work that I do with folks is that our beliefs become embodied in so many ways. And our beliefs are often an experience, or move from an experience that had us embody, internalize, physicalize, metabolize certain circumstances of our lives that we interpret most often as children. So the circumstances of a child's life and the context from which a child can interpret are limited by the experience that that child has. So a decision made by a 5-year-old is most likely not going to be as well informed as a decision made by a 25 or 35 or 55 or 65 or older, whatever person who has more life experience, more context, hopefully, to draw from. And yet, so many of us are living our lives out of decisions, out of interpretations that were made by children in stressed conditions. So it may be, for instance, as a child, harsh words from a parent registered in particular ways, and in an effort to defend or to protect oneself, in a bid for survival that felt threatened as a child, the child makes certain determinations, like it's not safe to speak up. And as a child, it may very well not be safe to speak up, because there could be a violent or angry parent that would exact certain consequences for the speaking up of that child. And as a result, that behavior, or whatever identity, whatever role emerges from that incident, or multiple incidences, certain beliefs and behaviors are adopted, not consciously. And we're often told, as children, we're told who we are in so many ways. You are so this, you are so that. Even seemingly good things, like you're so smart, so you get to be smart. And then when because that won you accolades, perhaps. And so there are times in life when we all err, right? But if your identity is tied up in being smart and you make an error, that could be cataclysmic, right? It's so fascinating to me how truly malleable our awareness is, how truly malleable our sense of self is. And what I mean by that is we really do have great plasticity in our consciousness. And I've seen this so many times where, in the context of a session, for instance, someone is able to go back to a formative instance in life that was traumatic and embrace their child self, encourage their child self, love their child self, accept them, communicate with them, offer support. And it transforms. I mean, it may sound ridiculous, but it's not. It's magic, because what I've seen again and again and again is a kind word to a wounded child, and even an imaginal embrace shifts the experience of that child, which is the experience of the adult self that is connecting with that earlier self. And what happens is that the whole timeline gets shifted. The underlying tone, the underlying tenor, the underlying assumptions and emotional assumptions and foundations then shift and ripple up through time into the present. So what's happening is that in an imaginal place, not imaginary, imaginal, where there's sort of the play of the other than conscious with the imagination and an experiential intelligence here. It's that's very real, even though it may not have happened in the physical universe that we're familiar with. What happens is it's like dominoes. So we tend to believe that the past is immutable, but in truth, that's not the case at all. The past resides in this moment and the way that we interact with it. And so one thing that we can do to deeply transform ourselves is to revisit that wounded child who needed support and give that support. And when that child experiences that support, that child then grows into an adult who was supported. And it shifts a switch. It's that dramatic. I've seen it so many times where giving that child what they need in that time of crisis is profoundly transformative. And it's non-linear, right? Because supposedly the past is past. and it can't be changed. Well, that's not my experience, not what I've witnessed in countless sessions, nearly 3,000 sessions with people that I've documented at least. It's quite remarkable how our being is so malleable, so fluid. And what's coming to mind is something spoken by the Dalai Lama. Years ago, I had the opportunity to volunteer at an event where the Dalai Lama was kind of giving a symposium, and the quote that I came away with was that all suffering is a result of misconceptualization. In other words, the way that we think is what creates our suffering. Yes, there can be pain, but the suffering is something that is generated in our minds by the way we think, by the way we conceptualize. And we don't even know it. It's not like we're consciously choosing it for the most part. It's that we're not recognizing these contexts and roles that have been cast upon us, and then we live into them. So we be angry, like who I am is angry. Who I am is an outsider. Who I am is not good enough. And we be our beingness expresses through those roles. And when we can recognize that those are roles that we're playing, that they are not who we truly are, that they are overlays on our essential selves, then we begin to find a path to freedom and to healing those wounds, redefining those roles, re-identifying, renewing. I love that word, making ourselves new again, renewing. And that's what's available to us. To become conscious, to become self-reflective, to start being able to see into the water that we're swimming in. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And hey, Rosalind, so good to have you here this morning. Welcome. I invite you to like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's a tremendous privilege to be able to be here with you and share these musings on what it is to be human. So until next time, so much love to you.